YouTube. This is What If Logic, and today I will be doing what if Deku was a clone for all. Was a clone of All for One. So, first of all, this might in fact be a hero what if, because I was doing some reverse psychology on you guys about a hero about One for All and All for One. So, if you guys would have picked What If Deku was the clone of All Might, then I would have made that one a villain what if. And if you would have picked this one would have been a hero what if. So, before we start this video, by clone, Deku is like basically just, he was created from something like twice his quirk, and another quirk that basically made him able to last, like basically like if he weren't to take much damage, he wouldn't melt. It's just that if he dies, man, he's dead. Like, he's a perfect clone. Like, he has blood. If he were to get shot, he would die from bleeding out. He wouldn't disappear. He would just be there. So Deku is just a complete clone. And Deku, he's one of the many clones that All For One is trying to perfect, which means that All For One killed a lot of himself. And this is what Deku would look like because he's a perfect clone of All For One. And Deku would have All For One. And Deku is built like a Nomu. He had many quirks pumped into him by the doctor. He's basically spent most of his life inside of a freaking a tube of water. You know, like if you read the manga and you read the raid on the hospital, what the heroes did during the war, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if you were to read that, you would have seen all those Nomus there. That's where Deku is. So, in this timeline, Deku, he has multiple quirks, plus he has All For One. He has a shock absorption type. He has the air cannon blast that All For One has. He has a regeneration type quirk, and he has multiple others, which I'll just leave that for you to decide. Now, Deku, he's about basically 6 years old when he is released from the chamber. And he is basically the complete clone of All For One. His All For One is better than basically All For One's All For One. This is kind of weird, because I'm just going to say that Deku's All For One has the ability to take All Might's One For All. So, yeah. It was pretty hard for All For One to create a clone that wasn't brain dead when he released it from the tank. So, Deku is basically the complete version. So, the doctor would tell Deku that his mission is to take the quirk of All Might, but before he can even finish that sentence, the door is broken down, as All Might's rushing in, as he got word of the location of All For One, which this is before All For One is injured. So Deku, All Might, he's finna rush towards the doctor, and then he would see that there's a young child there, and he would basically grab Deku by his shirt, and he would, I would say that, actually no, Deku would be butt naked. So he would grab Deku by his arm, and he would grab the doctor, detaining him, as other heroes would rush in. So this is before All Might's injured, and before All For One's injured. So he's like, alright men, detain him, as he tosses the doctor towards All Might, as Deku is just looking at All Might. So Deku, he's basically like a robot with a non-mechanical body. He's basically programmed to steal All For One or All Might's quirk. So yeah, it's like the androids. They weren't evil from the beginning. They were just basically taken by Dr. Jiro and basically programmed to want to kill Goku. So that's how that works. So Deku, he would basically reach for All Might's basically hand. Say to Deku, like how All For One works for Deku. Basically anything that touches the skin cells at the tips of Deku's fingers, they will lose their quirks. It's kind of Deku doesn't know how to control it now, so he's basically reaching for All Might's arm. As All For One, he would basically be walking out. He's like, amazing, All Might, you managed to find me. As All Might would look at All For One, and he would look back at Deku, because All For One, I'm gonna say that he had a mask before he got his injury, so he'd be like, you're identical. As he's like, this must be his son. As All Might's like, Ch. And All For One would basically put his hand out, and he would begin to fire blast towards All Might, Deku, and the other heroes. So All Might would grab Deku, and he would basically knock the other heroes away with a shockwave, as he's dodging the attacks. and he's like, "You're gonna hit your son." And All For One would be like, "He's replaceable," as he continues to fire the airway or the air cannons. As All Might is basically getting mad, he would toss him over to Endeavor, which Endeavor would catch him as All Might would rush towards All For One, and they would have that clash of fists. So All Might would basically kick All For One out the building, which All For One would land in that city area, which they would start to fight. And All Might would get injured, and All For One would get injured, but All Might would seemingly kill All For One, as All Might's taken to the doctors, basically. Not doctors, but a hospital. So, I have to do some math real quick. So, what age would All Might be before that fight? So, All Might, hold on. So, oh crap, wrong thing, don't look at that. Sorry. So, yeah, that's my background. Anyway, I'm just gonna say All Might is around All Might and All For One are around age of, actually, All Might would be 46 in the original canon. So I'm gonna say that All Might is he's like 36 now, and All For One is 36. Well, not 36, he's 39. Which means, I'm just gonna say that All Might has a child in this What If, because, yeah, All Might has a child. So All Might's son, his name will be Toshinori II. I'm pretty sure Toshinori is All Might's actual name. Yes, Toshinori is All Might's name, with the last name being Yagi. So, basically, Toshinori II, that's what he is, and he will be basically the successor of One For All. So basically, Deku, he is brought, when after the fight, All Might's asking about that boy, and Night Eye is like, "What boy?" As he'd be like, "There was a child. He looked like All For One, so he must have been the child, or All For One's child." And then Sir Night Eye is like, "The son of All For One? He had a kid?" As All Might's like, "Yeah." And he would basically just look up, and he's like, All For One was talking about how he could be replaced or something. And Sir Night Eye's like, huh. As he'd basically be worried, and he would basically look at All For One, All Might's future, by touching him and looking him in the eye. And All Might's like, "Huh? What do you see, Night Eye?" Which then, he would see, basically, Deku standing right beside his son, Toshinori. So, Toshinori has yellow hair with greenish eyes. I'll show you what he looks like. Oh, he looks somewhat like this, okay? So, okay, so yeah. He looks like that picture I just showed you. So, his hero costume is somewhat like, Captain Marvel? It's somewhat like hers, but more man-like, so, yeah. Deku, he just wears a normal suit, just like this one, because this is basically what Deku looks like. So, he's like, oh. Alright. And since Deku isn't, he is human, but he's more like a doll, because he's like, yeah, so, anyway. All For One, after getting up, walking around the hospital, after Sir Night Eye said that he was sitting in the hospital being examined, All Might would walk over to the boy, or basically Deku, and he would put his hand on his head. And he would start saying, "It's alright now, young man." As Deku, he was reaching to touch All Might's wrist, as he would stop after he heard All Might say this. So Deku was stopped, and he's like, huh? Basically confused. As All Might, he would basically sit down beside him, and he's like, "So what was your life like?" Deku would just stare directly forward. He was like, a lot of test. As All Might's like, "Test, huh? That bastard." As he's like, "What did he do to you?" And then Deku would be like, I'm saying that Deku has the memories of all his 149 counterparts who were killed when they were failures. So Deku would be like, "He used to shove a lot of quirks into me. And if they didn't work out, then he would basically rip them back out, and he would move on to the next one." And All Might's like, "Next one?" As Deku continued talks, and All Might would just basically just throw this idea away. So Deku's talking about All Might, what his life was, how he was in a tube, or in basically a glass container, how All For One would always basically rip quirks out of him, and then put them back in, just basically doing a lot of basically unsanitary shit, basically. So All Might's like, as he's looking out at Deku, and he's like, so, what's your quirk? Deku would be like, all for one. I have the ability to steal and take quirks. As basically, All Might would look towards Deku, and he's like, huh. I mean, it would be suspected that he has the same quirk. And he's like, so, is that all? As Deku would be like, no. My all for one is way better than my father's. And then he would say, because I have the ability to steal one for all. And All Might would be like, basically just a shocked face. He's like, you have the ability? And then he's like, let's go talk somewhere else, kid. Because they are sitting in a hallway, and All Might doesn't want this information getting out. So he would take Deku, and they would sit in a private room. This will be an hour special. So, because I used to make hour-long videos, and I was like, I miss that. So, yeah. Basically, Deku's telling All Might that he was basically born with the sole intention on stealing your quirk. And All Might's like, he's able to take it? And basically, Deku's like, I attempted to take it twice now, but then you started to talk to me, and you were nice. Nicer than the scientist or the doctor or father. Deku would always say father, okay? So, yeah. And All Might's like, huh. And, yeah, All Might would begin to talk with him. And I'm just going to say that Deku is 1 year older than Toshinari II. So, yeah. So Deku would be brought to, basically, I'm going to say that All Might would adopt Deku. So he can basically keep Deku under watch because he doesn't want him to become another All for One. And potentially steal his quirk, since that is basically possible for Deku now, because Deku has a way better one than All for One. So I would tell you guys that this is a redo of one of the ones that I had on my channel a while back. What if Deku had All for One? And I really didn't like that one, so I wanted to redo it. So this is a redo. Now, Deku, he's basically brought to the Toshinari home, or the Yagi household, as All Might. I would say that, would All Might be injured? Yeah, he would be injured as much as he was in canon, but I'm gonna say that when he shrinks, he doesn't shrink down to his skinny form. He basically shrinks down to a more toned and a more healthy looking person instead of his skeleton. So he would arrive home, as All Might's wife is Inko. So yeah, Inko's quirk is, I'll say, say Inko has a type of muscle augmentation. Inko can basically, she can inflate her muscles, making them larger. So it also increases her physical strength when she does this, meaning that when Toshinari gets it, which Toshinari has the exact same quirk as Inko, he would be able to use 100% of 100% of one for all nearly at the beginning. Probably be able to use like 50%. It's just like Super Saiyan Grade 2. It basically sacrifices speed for strength. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Grade 2. Or is it Grade 3? But sorry. Anyway. Now. Oh yeah, I made a Discord, which I'll put it down in the link down in the description. On this Discord, I'll be doing basically, I'll be doing a competition. So, whoever wins the competition, I'll basically do your what ifs. Now, I'll pick 13 of those what ifs, then I'll put it into basically a dice-like app roller thing, and it will basically start to randomly pick what ifs, and those 13 what ifs I'll be doing those daily, continually. So, if you guys want a third part of what if Deku had the Spirit Spear of Basculus, you guys can put that down in the comments as well. So, just join my Discord, and I will start doing ideas from there. So, yeah. And if you don't feel like joining the Discord, you guys can just put your what if you want down in the comments. I'll just take one of the few that I roll in one of my roller apps and see if it's actually worthy. Now, Deku, he basically grows up with Toshinari. Which Deku, he's basically more like a silent type. He has the silence of But he has like the silence of Sasuke with the quietness, not quietness, but I would say shyness personality. But nah, he wouldn't really be shy. It's just that he has a quiet personality. He only speaks when spoken to. Basically like a robot. So, yeah. Inko's like, as he would be somewhat infuriated with Toshinari for adopting someone without her permission. Then, basically, All Might would tell her that he is a son of a bad man. And he would also say that with the boy's quirk, he could easily be one of the most powerful heroes or one of the most deadliest villains. And Inko's like understanding this because he's a hero, and I would say that she would know about One For All because All Might wouldn't be the type of person who would bring someone into a relationship without telling them. So, Deku grows up with Toshinari. As Toshinari, he has the exact same personality, I would say, of All Might's master, Nana. He's always smiling and telling people around him to do their best. Which Deku, he would basically start to rub off on Toshinari. It's kind of weird because All Might's Toshinari, and there's this Toshinari. So, yeah. Now, Deku, he would start to basically open up a little bit more, as Toshinari would ask Deku what his quirk is. Which All Might told him not to tell anybody, and he's like, I don't think I can tell you. As Toshinari's like, it's okay. And Deku would be like, you might not like me anymore. And Toshinari's like, we'll always be good friends. Deku's like, I have the ability to steal and take quirks. Well, steal and bestow quirks. And Toshinari is quiet, basically silent for a little bit. He's like, you want to be a hero, right? And Deku would look over to Toshinari and he's like, I have never really thought of it, but I guess. As Toshinari's like, it doesn't matter what type of quirk you have. It matters how you use it. And Deku would basically just look over and he's like, yeah. So, the abilities that Deku will show off is his air cannon. Deku has the ability to basically focus energy. Well, basically, I would say. Actually, no. I'm gonna say that Deku, he uses a quirk known as. I'm gonna say. It's a sort of room. If you know what a room is, it's from One Piece. It's basically Deku. He basically creates a room of darkness, which he traps. It's like a barrier type, so you cannot escape the darkness. And Deku, he can literally control anything inside of the room. He can make people see illusions. He can basically make the room invisible from the outside world, but you can see from the inside. But yeah, Deku can basically use a lot in this. Deku will also be unable to take damage in this room because he can basically make his body made of He can make his body made of shadows, or basically a shadow type material or a liquid, and he would be able to nullify damage. So this is the main ability that Deku would show off. Hence the darkness is right here. Deku, he can also focus his darkness outside of a room, and he can use it to shoot many blasts of energy or just darkness. So yeah. Deku, he grows up with Toshinari, like I said. Those two are best friends. It's like Mirio and... How did I forget the guy's name? You know the guy who is called Sun Eater. It's like Mirio and him. So yeah. Now, Deku. I would say that Deku would go to the same school as he would in canon. So he would meet Bakugo, which Bakugo doesn't really like Deku because of his quiet personality. And on how he sees Deku as a type of person who leeches off of Toshinari. So he's like, as Bakugo really doesn't like Deku. Now, years go by. Inko has gotten completely used to Deku, and Deku, he basically sees Inko and All Might as actual parents. And you would say All For One should have visited Deku through this time, which All For One is going to visit Deku now. So it's at the end of middle school, and Deku, he stayed up late. So he decides to go out for a little walk, as he would put on some clothes and he would begin to walk around the neighborhood. So Deku, he's approached by someone with a shadowy head. It's Kirigiri, basically. And Kirigiri's like, boy, I've come for you. Deku would look over and he's like, who are you? As Kirigiri would say that, I am the I work for your father. And Deku's like, my father? You mean All for One? As Kirigiri's like, yes, him. As, oh yeah, one other thing to mention about Deku's quirk is, the quirk that he shows off mostly, is the fact that it's stronger at nighttime. It's stronger in darker areas. Meaning that Deku doesn't really need to create his room of darkness if there are a lot of shadows around. He could be on some shadow paralysis jutsu type shit, basically. So Kirigiri would be like, as Deku's refusing to go with him, and he's like, I don't have time for this, as he would try to teleport Deku, but then he's basically not able to move. As he looks down and he sees, Deku allows him to look down, and he sees that there's a shadow connected to his. And Deku is like, I don't think so. As he would basically put his hand up, and he would be creating an air cannon. As Deku's getting ready to hit Kirigiri, as Kirigiri would basically open a portal in front of him, and the blast would be teleported behind Deku, as Deku would just basically move his other hand to basically absorb the blast. And he would basically just take the energy, or the kinetic force, from this air cannon and basically just reabsorb it, as he would look back at Kirigiri, who managed to escape through the commotion. So Deku's like, okay. As Deku, he's like, I would say that Deku is the type of anti-hero. He's the type of person who would steal a quirk from a villain and say that it's for justice. So yeah. He's the type of person who steals a quirk, says that it's not for fun, I'm doing this because it has to be done. That's Deku's personality. And All Might tries to get rid of Deku, this personality from Deku, but he's just unsuccessful. And he hopes that Toshinari can get rid of it from Deku. So Deku, he would tell All Might that he was visited by a villain who says that he works for his father. And All Might would be like, no way, he's alive? As he's basically freaking out. So he's like, yeah, I have to train him now. As he's like, oh, okay. And he would ask Deku to bring, basically, Toshinari to his office. And Deku would basically call Toshinari. Toshinari would run down. He's like, yeah. And Deku would say that your father wants you. As he would run in the room. And All Might would offer Toshinari one for all. Toshinari would happily accept, and he's like, why didn't you offer it to Deku? As All Might would say, because. And he'd say that Deku, I don't really know if we would be able to pass it on again, because he's basically, actually no, he would basically say that Deku already has a powerful enough quirk as it is. And if All for One were to get to him, and he would say, mind control him again, then we wouldn't really be able to stop him. And he's like, that's why I'm always counting on you for Midoriya. Because he always listens to you. So, yeah. Hold on, let me pause this. I need to take a little break. So, I'll be taking, little breaks in my hour-long specials. Now, I'm just going to take a break. So, yeah. Alright, my break is over. So, now, Toshinari will start his training with All Might. As he's basically, working on how to basically rotate one for all throughout his body. And if I never left it off on the age limit, they are now 15, and it is now the 10 months of training. So Deku, he's basically going through the list of his arsenal at the moment, without stealing quirks. So he minuses all for one from his arsenal, and he basically looks through, he sees, his shadow quirk, I'm just going to call it Dark Room. So he looks through his Dark Room, his air cannons, then he's like, as he looks at one of his other quirks, which he says shock absorption. And he looks at his other quirk, and he's like super regeneration. And he's like, these quirks should be enough for me to become a powerful hero. And he's like, but for some reason, he starts to clench his hand. He's like, I want more. Why? Why do I want more power? As then Toshinari would bust through the room, because they would share a room. And he's like, okay, Midoriya, it's time for us to train. As Deku's like, huh? But aren't you training with Mr. All Might? And he's like, actually I'm saying, aren't you training with Father? And he would be like, oh, yeah. we are, but he's like, I should take a break, and I don't want to feel like it, so I want to fight someone strong. So Deku would be like, oh, okay, let's go then. As Deku would walk out, and he would create the Dark Room. Deku does this so he can help Toshinari basically distinguish from what's an illusion and what's not, or just to dodge multiple attacks coming from all directions. So this room is huge, and it is visible from the outside. I'm gonna say that All Might lives in a mansion, so yeah, this is basically visible from the outside. And All Might would look out and he's like, damn it, Toshinari, you just don't know when to listen, do you? And Inko was basically laughing. She's like, let the boys have their fun. So Deku, he's like, alright, Toshinari, let this begin. As he basically starts to snap his hands, or snap his fingers, as multiple dark spikes start to shoot out at Toshinari. These spikes are illusions, of course, as Toshinari would start to dodge them, and then he would actually, seemingly get hit by one, as he basically just starts to swipe his hand around. He's like, these are illusions. And Deku's like, yes, they are. And he's like, did you honestly think that I would launch an attack at you that could kill you? You're basically like my brother. And All Might and Inko would probably never forgive me if I actually did that. And he's like, yeah. So Deku's like, just because you are feeling some type of way about this, I'll make my spikes. Basically, he slaps his fingers again, as the spikes now, if they were to hit Toshinari, they would send a little zap or a bolt of electricity through his body. So he's basically dodging the attacks, infusing his body with his One For All and his muscle augmentation as he's moving fast. So Deku's like, yeah, I can't hold back anymore. As he would snap his finger, and basically the dark spikes would start to pop off of the darkness, and will start to home on him like actual missile launchers. So they're basically, Toshinari is dodging them, as he would now attempt to smack them away. Which he's able to do that, but it would still send a bolt of electricity through his hand. So now he's basically deflecting the dark attacks, as he's building up a pain tolerance. So Deku's like, alright, let's get serious. As Deku snaps his fingers again. Now, like I said, I forgot to mention this, but Deku, he can also increase his physical strength within this room. So he basically sorry I'm snapping, I'm just used to snapping. Now, he tells Toshinari to come at me with all he's got. And Toshinari would rush at Deku, basically with two hands, as Deku would catch both of his fists, and a clash would ensue. So, a shockwave would be sent throughout the room, and it would be so powerful that it would even rip a hole through it. So All Might notices that the room would start to stretch out as it comes back together and tries to stay together. Deku's like, that was pretty powerful, as he starts to clench his hands. So he's like, come at me, Toshinari. As Toshinari would rush at Deku, throwing a punch, which Deku would basically throw a punch of his own. So they're basically clashing fists, which Deku, he has his power output at, I'm gonna say, 15% of One For All, which that's how much power that Toshinari is using at this moment. And if you guys forgot, Toshinari is the All Might's son. So yeah. The reason why Deku was in a grade higher than him, because All Might put him in school because Deku wasn't really that smart. And he was in the tube most of his life. All For One only taught him what he needed for battle. So yeah. Now, Deku is clashing fists with Toshinari, as he would now throw a kick at Toshinari, which would land, kicking him in the bottom of his chin. So Deku, he'd be like, alright. And he'd go for another punch, which Toshinari would go with basically a kick that would connect and hit Deku's arm. So basically Deku would jump back now, as their battle would start to, Deku's actually starting to get in the fight. So Deku starts to clench his hand, as he would now launch a bunch of air cannons at him. Basically like rapid fire. His arms aren't growing that big, but he is still launching powerful blasts. And when these blasts start to hit the dome, which they're locked in right now, it starts to clash and basically, I would say pierce the Shadow Realm. I'm just going to call it Shadow Realm. So, Shadow Realm. I'm just going to say Shadow Realm. So, yeah. All Might's still watching this. He's like, I hope those two aren't taking this too seriously. So, Deku, he's like, alright. As Toshinari is like, I wonder what happened if I use 100% of One for All. So he basically clenched his fist, rushing towards basically rushing towards Deku. As Deku, he would basically clench his fist. He's like, yeah, he's planning on using 100% of it, huh? So then he would throw 100%. Actually, he'd throw as much basically enhancement that he has within his realm at Toshinari, which her fist would clash, and it would completely pop the Shadow Realm. So Deku, he basically pulls his arm back, which it is broken. And Toshinari's arm is broken, and Deku looks at his arm, which it doesn't really, it hurts, but Deku isn't really showing the pain. As he would look over at Toshinari, who's on the ground clenching his hand. And Deku's like, that's what you get, you idiot. You know that you basically, didn't All Might tell you that you shouldn't use 100% of it? As Toshinari's like, yeah, but I still wanted to do it. So Deku, he'd walk over to basically, Toshinari, after his hand was fully healed, basically getting on his knee, basically kneeling down, and putting his hand on Toshinari's head, passing his regeneration on. So Toshinari's arm would immediately start to regenerate, as his arm is basically folding itself back into place and being put back together. All Might was a little scared of Deku putting his hand on Toshinari's head, but he's like, I can't believe I'm still basically paranoid with this kid. I practically raised him since he was a 6-year-old. And Deku, he would take his regeneration back. So he's like, now, don't ever use 100% of that power if you don't know how to control it yet. Because Toshinari is basically laughing, and yeah. Their 10 months of training is basically Deku teaching not teaching, but it's basically Deku fighting with Toshinari after Toshinari trains with All Might. So yeah. Now, it is time for it's time for the entrance exam. So Deku is walking into the school with Toshinari as he's looking at a book. And Toshinari, he's basically, I'm gonna say that he's famous with the girls in this one. So, yeah. It's not like Deku doesn't have the looks, it's just that he's not interested. And Deku is not gay, it's just that he's not interested in dating at the moment. So Toshinari, he would basically start to, flirt with some of the girls who were walking in. As Deku's like, I hope that you don't let women distract you on your way to becoming the number one hero. As Toshinari would be like, huh? I mean, yo. I would say that Deku, he has the name Izuku Yagi now. So he has the last name Yagi. So he's like, yo, Izuku, don't you want to be the number one hero? And Deku's like, huh. Someone like me being the number one hero, I'll leave that to you. He says that I'm more suited for the number 2 position. As basically, I can't believe I forgot All Might's name already. Toshinari. He's like, that's so you. But he's like, at least I won't have that much competition then. And he's like, and if you change your mind, I guess I'll have to work even harder. So Deku just basically gives him a little grin as they walk in together. Now, Deku would bump into Uraraka as she would fall to the ground, as Deku's not basically focused enough to catch her. So Deku would be like, my apologies, as he would begin to dust Uraraka off after Toshinari picked her up. So he'd be like, I'll repay you, basically, as he'd reach into his wallet and he would try to hand Uraraka money. So Uraraka's like, no need. So she would start to walk past him. She's like, I hope to see you in UA. So Deku's like, me too. As he would ask Toshinari, why didn't she accept the money? As Toshinari would say, I mean, not all people are heroes for money, you know that, right? Or want to be heroes for money. Deku's like, oh, okay. As he would basically begin to put his money back in his wallet and basically place it in his pocket. So Deku, he has an allowance of basically $100 a month. Not a month, but a week. Because All Might, he would be probably making within the millions if he was a pro hero. Because pro heroes are rich as boy. I mean, pro heroes are rich. They're rich. So I would say that All Might makes around $2 million or $3 million a year. So yeah, Deku, he has basically a lot of money. Because unlike Toshinari, he saves his shit. And I would say that Deku has been saving his money since he was 7 years old. So he has around $1 million by now. Not a million. He has over like $100,000 because every year, like every week that he makes 100. So every week he makes 100. By the end of the year, he would have like a lot of money because I don't feel like doing that math. So yeah. Deku, he would walk in with Toshinari, sit down. They would sit down next to Bakugo. Bakugo would just stare at Toshinari. Toshinari would just look at him slightly, and he would look away. So, now, after basically the teacher is done telling everyone about how the robots work, he would hand them their tests. Deku would pass the test with flying colors, and he would even correct Nezu, which Nezu is basically like, oh, okay, this kid is extremely smart. There's no wow. And he's like, I would love to talk to this kid about basically physics one day. And Deku, he's standing in basically his zone. He's not in the same zone as Toshinari because Toshinari basically, I'm gonna say that he's related to Deku, and All Might wanted to move them away from each other so they didn't help. So Deku, he's basically standing forward it looks like he's sleeping with his eyes open. As a teacher would say, go, and everyone would start running. And Deku, he would basically just start walking, as he would basically just put his hand out as he would create a room. So, the room would take up... Deku has to be overpowered in all my what-ifs, so I would say that... No, Deku doesn't have an enhancement quite yet. So I would just say that Deku would create a room, which it would take up like half of the arena, and he would basically just start killing robots. Like, he's piercing their bodies. The robots are basically being destroyed. And he's making this visible from the outside so the teachers can write down his points. So Deku's walking through as the other students are basically starting to panic because they can't make any points. So Deku basically puts his hand up, and he would say, as he would stop, and he's like, shit, I can't show off any other quirks. As he'd be worried, and he would put his hand back down as he would continue to break robots with his, basically his shadow spikes. So, after he feels that he's made enough, he would basically release the barrier, as people were trying to get out of it using their quirks on it, but nothing worked. So Deku, everyone now runs out, as he would basically sit down, and he would wait for the test to be over. Now, while Deku is waiting, he would hear basically a loud crash as he would look over to a wall. And he's like, that idiot must have used 100% of One For All again. As Deku, I would say that he's in the same area as... Dang it, I forgot his name. I would just say that Deku is in the same area as, the guy with the Black Shadow, or not Black Shadow, but the guy with Dark Shadow. I forgot his name. So can you please put his name down in the comments? So he's in the same area as that guy. So yeah, Deku isn't really in the area where Uraraka is because Uraraka is being saved by basically Toshinari right now. So yeah. After that, Deku would be waiting outside of their door for All Might and basically Yagi. So he'd be like, you idiot. And he would look at his arm, he's like, it's healed. Was there a hero with a regeneration quirk? And All Might would say, yes. And he would say, Recovery Girl was there. Deku would be like, oh, neat. So he would start to walk. So All Might's like, so, you guys want to go get something to eat before we get home? And he's like, because your mom did cross the seas so she can visit her grandma. So I guess that I don't really know how to cook. As Deku would be like, yeah, let's just go get something to eat. As they start to walk off to basically a restaurant. Now, they arrive home as they're waiting for their letters of acceptance or basically denial. So Deku, he gets his letter as they basically open it together. I'm gonna say, yeah, they open theirs together as the thing falls out and the message comes. And in unison, one shows the teacher, actually, I'm gonna say Deku opens his somewhere else. So, Toshinari gets a different hero that tells him that he passed. As Deku, he would get All Might. So All Might would say, good job, young Izuku, you pass. And he's like, you've been on such a long journey since I found you all those years ago. And then he'd be like, I'm proud of you, son. As All Might would smile and the recording would pop off. So Deku is just basically sitting on the bed as he basically has a little smile on his face. So Toshinari basically busts down the door and he's like, yo, Midoriya, it's time to eat. As Deku would be like, oh, alright. As he would get up and he would walk down. Because I would say Inko would return over these weeks. So, yeah. Now, it is time for basically them getting into UA. So Deku, he's now walking to UA with his uniform with Toshinari. The Toshinari is basically talking with Deku, as Deku is basically just telling Toshinari that you should focus more on your studies, because you barely passed the entrance exam. And he would be like, huh, maybe luck just, well, maybe the universe wanted me to be a hero. As Deku's like, whatever. As they arrive at UA, as Deku would walk through the door, he would sit down. So Bakugo would immediately start looking at him, as Deku would just look forward, and he would look over when he heard a girl say, thank you. And he would see that Toshinari saved a girl, and he's like, that's the same girl that I saved, that's the same girl that I knocked over, as he would just look forward. He'd be debating with himself whether he should give her another sorry for tripping her, because he does see that there are bandages on her knees and on her elbows, and he hoped that her scratches never affected her in UA getting into the entrance exam. So, yeah. Now, Deku, he's basically, Aizawa would pop up and he would look around the room as he would spot Deku. And he's like, oh, it's that kid. And he'd be like, alright. So he'd be like, alright, grab your stuff and let's go. So Toshinari and Deku, they would be changing. As Deku, he has like a toned, basically a body mass. He's not too muscular, not too basically skinny. He's just right. Toshinari, he has a very muscular body because he needs it to use one for all. So people would start talking, as Deku would see Mineta poking through, or trying to peek through a hole. As Deku, he'd be like, alright. As he would basically walk past Mineta, and he would kick Mineta. Well, he would basically tap Mineta in his leg, causing Mineta to slip, as one of Earjack Girl's phones, basically, Earjacks will come through the wall, hoping to poke Mineta in the eye. So Deku would be like, that's interesting, as he would walk off. I'm really confused on what ship I should have Deku have in this what if, because there really wouldn't be a ship. Well, there would be a ship, but it's just that Deku's personality is keeping him back, or holding him back from love interest. And you guys cannot say Uraraka, because Uraraka is going to be Toshinari's love interest. And Momo really wouldn't Momo have the patience to deal with Deku? And then you cannot pick Mina, because her personality is way too energetic for Deku. Froppy, Deku does speak what's on his mind, but not that much, so that one's a little bit weird as well. Then there's, finally, this dude is uploading another video, bro. I was literally waiting for 3 days bro. You cannot, bruh. I have to hurry up and end this video so I can see, how long did it say it was gonna last? 30 minutes, so yeah, I have to end this video quick. Now, Earphone Jack Girl, do you think that she would be able to ship with Deku? Yeah, it's like literally no woman in Class 1A would ever have a chance, or just the patience with Deku. None of them would be a perfect match. Invisible Girl, Deku could, actually, no, not really. So, yeah, give me your opinions down in the comments. If I see enough of opinions about one female, or male, because I'm not choosing, or I'm not picky. So, yeah. You guys can pick between a female or male, because I'm not sexist, and I don't really care if you are homosexual. So, yeah. Your decision. Now. Please be a female. Anyway, so, now. Deku would walk out the doors as he would look forward. He would see that the females are already dressed and outside, so he would walk out and he would basically stand in line. Deku is extremely old. I'm gonna say that he and Toshinari are around the same height because they always eat the same food. Deku doesn't work out as much as Toshinari, but I don't really think working out would affect how tall you would get. But you guys can just tell me that. So, yeah. Now, Deku is looking forward as he's thinking about he was thinking about how or who got first, as Aizawa would say, Midoriya. Or not Midoriya. I don't know why I'm doing my All Might voice, but he would say, young Midoriya, you're next, come up here. Or you're first, come up here. And Deku would come up as he would basically grab the ball. So, Deku, he would basically get into a seat, basically like a throwing position, as his arms would look like they're inflating. So Deku, he would basically put his hand up and into a throwing position, launching the ball, which you could see that there is like some sort of wind pressure, or like there looks like that there is solid air pushing the ball, which as I was like, does he have one for all? As he's looking, and he's like, yo, why do you have an enhancement? Your quirk is here shows that you have your quirk here says Shadow Realm. As Deku was like, oh, I just used it to enhance my body. As Deku said, lying through his teeth. So, yeah. Now, Deku, he gets back in line after throwing the ball. Deku doesn't really have an approachable personnel, or basically approachable aura around him, so people don't really talk to him. So, basically, Yagi gets up and he throws his ball, which he enhances it with. Okay, I'll go check that out anyway. So yeah, he basically throws the ball, which Aizawa would see that Yagi, he's the one. So then he would look over at Deku and he would be like, these two are brothers? And he's like, All Might never had a son, and he's thinking about All Might did adopt one, and he's then thinking about the raid on All For One. So he's like, okay, that must be All For One's child. So yeah. Now, their other test would happen as Deku and Toshinari would be basically rising through the ranks. Not ranks, but basically they're tied with each other by the end of it. Because Deku doesn't really have an enhancement quirk, so he has to rely on his air pressure, which he uses to, he creates a room barrier, which he stretches it to the end. As when Aizawa says go, he would basically make himself faster, and the other people who's racing against him slower. Which Deku, like I said, he can control anything within his dark realm, or his just room. He can control gravity, he can control basically the air particles, or whether if there is oxygen within this room, he can control everything. Everything, okay? So yeah. Now, Deku, by the end of the test, Deku and Toshinari are seen as the top. They're basically tied for number one. But they're like, these guys must be these two are basically the strongest in the classroom. So, yeah. Now, it is time for the heroes versus villains. So, Deku, he's standing in front of All Might would bust down the door, and then Toshinari would be like, Father, you're a teacher here? As All Might would be like, oh, Toshinari. And he's like, huh. As everyone would be like, Father, as they look over at Toshinari. And All Might really never made his name public or publicized, so yeah. They're like, wait, you're All Might's son? As he's like, yup, my name is Toshinari Yagi. As basically All Might's like, you idiot, why are you revealing my last name? And he's like, didn't I reveal your first name? Hold on. So basically, All Might's like, well, Toshinari's like, I revealed your first name as well, so why aren't you mad about that one? And they're like, All Might's name is Toshinari Yagi? And then All Might's like, you fucking idiot. And he's like, alright. And then he's like, oh yeah. And then he would basically announce to the classroom that this is his big brother. As the class is like, he's the son of All Might? All Might has 2 kids? And then they're like, yeah, we did hear that All Might had a son, but we never heard that he had 2. And yeah, All Might's like, shh, alright kids, please refrain from talking while I explain what's going on. Wow, there are a lot of videos being posted right now. So he's like, please refrain from talking while I explain what's going to happen. As he explains the heroes versus villains and how they all should draw lots. So Deku, he'll draw a lot as he is going up against Toshinari. So, basically, Deku, he looks up and he's like, Toshinari, huh? As he looks at his partner, which his partner is, I'ma say Tokiyami. That's the guy's name, Tokiyami. So he's like, so, what's your name? As Tokiyami would say, well, I'm Tokiyami. And he would be like, my quirk is Dark Shadow. And then he would say that, I heard that your quirk was called Shadow Realm? Deku would be like, yes, my quirk allows me to create a room of darkness where I can control everything that happens within that room. As Toshinari, well, not Toshinari, but as, I forgot, oh yeah, Tokiyami. I can't believe I keep forgetting these names. So Tokiyami would say, it would be bad if you were to use that on me. And he would say, and then Toshinari would say, not Toshinari, but, Tokiyami would say that my quirk, it basically gets more uncontrollable in the darkness, so it would be really dangerous if you were to basically use that on me. So Deku, he would basically be like, alright. As he would be like, don't worry. As a dark aura would start to feel Deku, and this is basically Deku's hero costume, a normal suit, and basically the white t-shirt, which All Might would basically find unnerving because Deku has the same fashion sense as All For One because he is a direct clone. He doesn't have the memories, but he has the fashion sense. As Deku would be like, don't worry, I can handle this. As Tokiyami's like, no, this is a team effort. I'm pretty sure Tokiyami's the bird dude, gotta check just in case. God. So yeah, Tokiyami's like, we're a team, we need to do this together. Which, if I didn't give Deku a specimen, or what side he on, Deku's a villain. As Deku's like, oh, yeah. Alright, we can work together as a team then. As Deku would be like, alright, so your quirk is sentient, right? As he would be like, yes, that is exact. So Deku would be, well, Dark Shadow would be out talking, and he'd be like, interesting, as he would begin to walk. So Deku, he's walking, as he basically, I'm gonna say that they left the bomb, because Deku doesn't really, well, he has the building under room already. And nobody really notices, but the room, basically, Deku put a room on the entire building the moment he stepped in. Like I said, Deku can control the properties of the room. He can make it visible from the outside or invisible from the inside. So, yeah. He basically made the room invisible. There is no darkness, so Tokiyami can't really go berserk. And when Deku uses his attacks, they will also be invisible, meaning like he actually has a stand. So, now, we skip over to the basically perspective of basically Toshinari. He was talking with Uraraka, which Uraraka is his partner. He's saying that, alright, you should really watch out for, basically, he would say Izuku. As she would see that he's serious, and he would say that Izuku, he has a quirk called Shadow Realm. And you might, well, he'd be like, Toshinari would say, we might already be inside of the room, but there's a chance that he can literally do anything within this room. Create illusions. He's basically the god of this area. As then Toshinari would basically feel basically a sensation within his body that tells him to move, as he would basically grab Uraraka's head, ducking, as basically a crater would be created within a wall. It's a small crater, but then but Toshinari would look, as he would be like, damn it, we're already within the room, as he would start to look around. So Tokiyami's like, are you sure we don't need to guard the bomb? And Deku would be like, no, I'm sure that we don't need to guard it. Just rely on my abilities of protecting that bomb, as he would continue to walk. Deku, they basically have, Deku basically has the ability to feel the air particles shift within the room, so he knows exactly where they are. As he would continue to attack them, as basically, Toshinari is forced to dodge them with Uraraka, which he gets hit by a couple of them. And Uraraka's like, this guy's ability is ruthless. As Deku would finally walk across the hallway, as he would look towards and he would say, alright, Tokiyami, since this is a team effort, it's your turn. As Tokiyami would basically rush past the Deku, and he would start rushing towards Uraraka and Toshinari. Which basically Toshinari would use his muscle augmentation. Like I said, his hero suit is like a copy of All Might's and Captain Marvel's together. By Captain Marvel, I mean like Captain Marvel, not Shazam. So yeah, his hero suit is a copy of Captain Marvel's and All Might. So that's what his hero suit looks like. So basically, now Toshinori rushes towards him as he augments his body, and Deku, when he throws a punch, Deku would basically send one of his invisible tendrils at Toshinori, hitting his arm downward, as Tokiyami would go for a punch with his dark shadow, connecting against Toshinori's face and sending him flying. So basically, Tokiyami looks back and he's like, that guy's abilities are interesting. And then he's wondering, wait, why? His hand went down as if it was basically hit or pushed downwards. So he's basically confused. Now, Toshinori would basically get up as he would enter he would enter basically 35% of One For All, full cowling, plus he would also augment his body to the point where it's actually stable enough to sustain it. So his body is basically buff now. Not nearly as buff as All Might, but yeah, it's still buff. So Deku, he's walking towards Toshinori, and he says, Tokiyami-san, you deal with the girl, as he would continue to walk, and he would be like, I'll deal with this one. As then, their fight would start, and that is where I'll be ending off this video. So, for part 2, I'm gonna need 50 likes. And if you guys can do that, I'll get one out as soon as possible. And I will also put the link in, my Discord and the link in the description below. Now, when you go there, you guys can immediately start putting what ifs that you want down, and I will do my best to pick the best ones. You guys can pick any what if or any topic through basically any anime or a real life TV show except One Piece, because I'm still watching that. And also no Ben 10, because I have not watched that series ever in my life. So, yeah. Thank you for watching my channel, and I hope you enjoy. Goodbye.